This radio station is an alternative radio station. We're a non-commercial radio station, and we do a lot of discussions about the mainstream media. What are some of the things that are not being discussed in mainstream media in the U.S. that you feel should be in reference to this conflict?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, for most of this conflict, I was actually out of the U.S., so I didn't see most of what the media was covering.
Mm-hmm.
But if we take the last 30 years as a mirror to what must have been happening, it is the one-sidedness of the coverage. I did see something last night which was quite interesting to me. I saw CNN, and they were interviewing this young woman from Iran who was very brave and was a part of the protests every day, going out there. And the CNN interviewer was trying to turn this into a woman's issue as opposed to a nation's issue. And that is always really interesting to me, that they, without knowing it, they fall into that trap of trying to stereotype the nation, even at one of its most critical moments, to turn this into a man-woman type of an issue. Are there more women on the streets than men? Are men thinking differently about women now that they're out there shoulder to shoulder protesting with them? And I think those kinds of questions, which sort of is fed off of this last 30 years of negative portrayal of Iran and Iranian men and Iranian culture, it is disturbing to me. It's truly disturbing to me. The other thing is, I think to some extent, the media should have the responsibility of exposing elements out there who are trying to take advantage of this situation. When you have situations like Daniel Pipes or Michael Rubin making the kinds of comments that they have been making in the recent days about preferring to have Ahmadinejad, or if they were in Iran, they would vote for Ahmadinejad because, then that gives the U.S. every excuse that it needs to do whatever it wants to do in Iran. I think that exposing of these elements has not been there, and that's something else that sort of bothers me.
That's the new trend in a lot of mainstream U.S. media, is to get these folks on the payroll rather than being critical of these types of folks. What do you think? We talked about Obama, but what do you think the role, if anything, should be for the U.S. government or citizens in this country who are interested in helping out or feel like this is, like you said, a historic moment that could maybe use some international support, or maybe it doesn't?
Well, I think you said the key word, and that's support, moral support, intellectual support, emotional support. I don't believe that interference in Iran's affairs would have positive consequences. We have seen that happen in the past, and we have seen the results of it. In 1953, Mossadegh's overthrow is still a pretty dark, huge dark mark on Iran's history, and has been a reason why Iranians or Iran's current government is suspicious of U.S. We've seen it in Latin America, America's interference in Latin America, and that doesn't help things. So I think the role should be support, but not interference. And the reason I say that, imagine during one of U.S.'s elections, let's say when the Gore-Bush drama was going on, that another country had come in and interfered. How would Americans feel? That's exactly how Iranians would feel if there was interference from somebody else. It would not be acceptable. I remember the comments that I think it was Fidel Castro had made about Hillary Clinton and Obama being a dream team, and how that even the liberal media was taking that and saying that that's Fidel Castro should go to hell. He shouldn't be making these kinds of comments, etc., etc. So there, that's my that's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Very quickly, I know you're going to have to go pretty soon, but can you very briefly talk about some of the differences between the two candidates, Mousavi, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Mousavi, is that right?
Yes.
And Ahmadinejad. What are some of the differences that people should be aware of between those two candidates?
Well, obviously, Ahmadinejad is definitely a hardliner, and we have seen the effect of some of his disastrous policies in Iran in the last 4 years. Some of his rhetoric has done nothing but isolate Iran on the global scene. It seems like, at least on the surface, it seems like that Mousavi is a reformist, or at least that's how he's being positioned, that he's not a hardliner, that he would try to engage in a dialogue with the U.S. and some of the other Western countries and put Iran back on the global map. Now, he used to be the prime minister under Ayatollah Khamenei when he was the president. So he's an insider. So I am not sure, to what extent he really truly is a reformer. Mm-hmm. To what extent he would try to change things. For example, would he, if he was elected and he was president, would he release the political prisoners who are currently in Iranian jails?
Very last question, if 15 seconds or so, if you can answer this in 15 seconds, what do you hope will happen? What's the best case scenario for you at this moment in time?
And I think the only way out of this is if they call the election off, the results off, and they have re-voting, and have people come back and vote again between the two candidates, like having a runoff between Mousavi and Ahmadinejad. Right. That's what I'm hoping for.
Radioactive is produced by members of the Hartford Independent Media Collective. It airs every Wednesday at noon on WWUH 91.3 FM and every Tuesday at 1 p.m. on WESU 88.1 FM. For more information and podcasts, visit hartfordimc.org. That's hartfordimc.org.